Welcome in to the Bobby Carpenter Show. My guy, Mr. Anthony Schlegel, excited to have you in here on this Football Friday. Not really a Football Friday for Ohio State, but it will be the last Friday before they find out, I guess, who their college football playoff opponent will be, where the game will be played. We we suspect that it'll be played in Columbus, Ohio, but we are not positive or certain on that yet. Got a big show player in for you today is Caroline Fenton of Yahoo Sports going to join us as well. Talk a little bit about some of the games this weekend, kind of her thoughts on the playoff and where everything is going to go. We still got a ton of comments to run down, Schlegs, our favorite in the YouTube machine and on the old Twitterverse to see what everybody's saying and their thoughts on the world. Because we love that there's a lot of that going on and everything else. But how are we getting hit on this Friday, man? How are we feeling about everything going on?
Bro, I had a great event last night at Worthington Jewelers. Bob Capacci brought me up, just like a meet and greet, have some bourbon, buy your girl some jewelry type deal. And he gifted me with this silver bullet. So Bob and I were talking about this because I was like, Bob, I want to get something that's real. Remember we had like I think it was like a 5.56 Bob back in the day. We didn't get them. They kind of came after with thick. But I was like, man, this would be sweet if we could do this. And he gifted me with one. So now I got to run it up the ladder. Like, let's go to James. Let's go to Knowles. Like, this would be something that's really memorable. So, Bob, I appreciate it. And I got to answer a lot of questions, kind of like our tailgate talk. Very open, man. Like, very passionate. And it was super fun. So now I'm in. My juices are rolling. I'm ready for as many questions as we have from the listeners because it's going to be great.
Well, Schlegs, I was trying to dig it out behind me in my desk. I actually have a bunch. They were doing that with Fick and giving them out like that 5.56. Actually, hold on. I got it. Here we go. I've got one that they got for me when they were putting them out from all my keychains. So there you go. Hanging on that. They've got little
You
got chains you can hang them on your chest. They actually did do a deal this year when there was some jeweler and they give them out and they're not 5.56. I think they're 44s. They're pretty thick. They're pretty girthy round, if you will.
This is like a 300 Win Mag. Like that's what I like. Like we're going long range distance, and it's 2 ounces of straight silver. I mean, honestly, like you're out there, gas station ready, pumping your diesel truck, 2:00 in the morning. Werewolf comes out, boom, stab him in his chest, dead right there.
They did. They gave them out to guys though. They are I don't know what the round size would be, but they are straight silver. They have like their name and number engraved on them and everything in red stitching. They're pretty sweet. I mean, dude, I'm all like, we can go full old school, dude. Like this is all I need. The problem is with this though, is when you travel a lot, Schlegs, like what you do, getting this through the airport, I had to like argue with one of the guys for a while. I go, bro, it's got a hole in it. And he's like, it's a bullet. I'm like, but it can't hold any powder. And I don't have a gun to shoot it with. I don't even have a hammer hit the back. And by the way, there's nothing inside it. You want to like rub it for the residue and everything else.
Yeah.
Like it's on a keychain. Like it's harmless. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Samson with his haircut. Like he's not doing anything. All right. So I don't travel. I have to bring my backup set of keys whenever I go to the stinking airport now because of that. And so I love it. Go Bucks. I mean, big time ball. And I've got some more. I'll have to give you some, but just some hollowed out. Listen, do we get some old 223s, 5.56s, hollow them out? I mean, that's good enough for me, but I'm glad that went well. I mean, they asked the questions, the tough ones, I'm sure. And, and some people just really want to know. And they probably don't have a full idea of like what the world of college football looks like and how things happen, how they transpire. And, they're hearing things about arguments, and these blow-ups and restrain guys in team meetings, which like never happened. Passionate and emotional conversations happen, but like no fights. There's none of that stuff going on. Like, as to my knowledge and being around, like everybody seems like of linear thought of like, hey, now we're going to be sitting around on Sunday waiting to see who we play and where we play. Objective 1, can't achieve it. That's done. Objective 2, can't achieve it. That's done. The guy who can achieve it, who I honestly, like, I don't necessarily want this to happen, but I think it would be tremendous if James Franklin somehow upset Oregon. The guy, Schlegs, who was maligned as anybody, can't win the big one, can't beat Ohio, can't do all this stuff. If he somehow in Indy, which, by the way, you can get in, folks. If you plan, maybe you had reservations over there already. A lot of times when you buy tickets to these games, and it's like for the media passes, you put them in. If your team doesn't go, like I can buy tickets through Ohio State. If you don't get them, they don't go. Poof, David Copperfield, you're done. It doesn't matter. You'll get charged. But if you buy them on like the open market and you're stuck with them, I feel bad because you're like, oh, I'll resell them to another team. A lot of people I know paid, a couple $100s for them. It's like you can get in the door to Lucas Oil at 8:00 on Saturday night for like $12 to $14.
That's amazing.
There it is. Poof, David Copperfield throwing it up there. Take a look at that thing. I mean, how insane is that?
That's absolutely crazy. But you know what? Though? It shows the power of the brand that is Ohio State, because you have a West Coast team and you have a middle of nowhere team, and they're coming together in Indy, and they ain't traveling that much, and here's the difference now in college football world. You have way more games. What are you going to do, fan? You only have, most of us only have a certain amount of disposable income, but then you have a Big Ten championship game. You win that, you have a bye. There's a bowl game. Then you have the semifinal. That's the game. Then you have a final, right? You have the championship game. Where do you want to spend your dollars? And that's really where we are now in college football. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like how you going to allocate, because like you said, if you win this, you're going to play again. You're going to play again. Like you keep winning, you keep going. And for some teams, they'll be playing 4 games. If you're a road team, potentially 4 on the road, should you win them all and make it to the national championship, not including a conference game. But even at that, even if you've got to buy, you're talking about 3 games in a row that you have to book last-minute flights, last-minute hotels.
Charge to win.
It's like they're not giving you discounts on any of that. Like the folks at the cities, like American Airlines and Delta and United, Southwest. Hey, it's not a bereavement. I had somebody die. Maybe my team, I felt like, died a week ago, but they don't count that. It's not factored in. And then the hotel is like, there's no discount group rate they're giving you. You know what they're going to do? Yep. Jack that thing up even more. So you're going to be spending lots of dollars trying to get that thing solved. So it's a pretty wild situation. But that's what they're going to be doing. So guys got some workouts in throughout the week. They got a little practice. I think they've got a little more practice today. Hopefully get over and take a peek and see that. But feeling pretty good kind of about where everything's going in this. Are you feeling, Schlegs, as good as I am, like with regard to where the team's mindset is heading into this final game or heading this final weekend?
Yeah, you still have, today is what, Bob? Today is
the 6th. Tomorrow, Schlegs, is a day that will live in infamy. Remember that.
Yes, it will. It will.
It's December 7th.
No,
you know what December 7th is, Schlegs?
No, Pearl Harbor
Listen,
Day.
Schlegs, you're an esteemed veteran of the United States.
I know exactly what the day is. And it was also my grandmother's birthday was December 7th. So anyways, that being said,
what a crappy birthday present. She was probably alive during Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, she 100% was. So anyways, that being said, and that's an interesting question. Do I feel as good as you? Here's my feeling. I like the fact that they had a players meeting. I like the fact that they're out there and they're working out. And my question would be, what's the intensity of practice? What's the mindset of the guys in the weight room? How are they going about handling their business? I think that those type of big meetings, and we talked about this yesterday, Bob, helps you turn the page, right? Old school Bob Seger style.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Turn the page. Boom. And that's the biggest thing that you got to do in this. And then you're going to go watch this game. And here's what I hope watching these games do for your guys. They played Oregon, right? They played Penn State. They've seen these other ones and what everybody else is talking about. Guys understand ball. So they're going to be looking at this and like, dude, what transpired? What happened? We got this. Boom, chip on your shoulder. Let's get to work for the next 2 weeks because we got a home game in Ohio Stadium and everything is before us. As AJ alluded to, a team that goes in to the NFL playoffs as a wild card and wins a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. Once you're in the college football playoff, there's 12 teams that can win it. Go be that team. And they're still like one of the betting favorites to go do it. So my biggest thing was I feel good that they had hard conversations because in 2024, nobody likes those.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're able, because of the veteran leadership, in more importantly, the guys, not necessarily the coaches, but the guys, they're going to turn the page and they're going to get to work. Now, coaches, coach with urgency, right? Coach with we talked about being fanatical, single-minded focus, right? On the mission at hand, and whoever that is, that's what we got to have.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we got Caroline Fenton on deck,
Yes.
ready to go. Bring a little national perspective. I want her to give her unfettered, unbiased opinion about the Ohio State-Michigan game. I know it's a week out now. Talk about projections, where she thinks things are going, and honestly, the potential for this Ohio State team to maybe get on a run, or who she likes to maybe even get on a run. We'll get into all that here in a minute. But before that, I want to tell all the parents and athletes out there, listen, just because the fall is over, winter season is here. Protect what matters most with Export mouth guards, trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouth guards, scientifically tested to help absorb those high impact hits to protect both your teeth and your brain. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including patented use of carbon fiber. They 3D print that bad boy right to your grill for more protection, better performance, maximum comfort, clear communication. Focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Go to exportguards.com/Bobby. That'll help you save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. Caroline Fenton coming up next.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer. Welcome back into the program here, and been a reoccurring guest now. Pleased to welcome in XM Radio. You can see her on some Yahoo Sports. My man Jason Fitz, Caroline Fenton rejoining the program. Caroline, how are we doing going into this this final weekend, regular season? This the conference championship weekend of college football.
I'm pumped. I'm psyched. Like, we've got 5. Look at the Power 4 conference championships plus UNLV Boise State. And the fact that that game matters, like the fact that that is a win in the college football playoff game, I think is so fun. And I think it's great for college football. The fact that the ACC championship game has potential for major chaos, that's a win in the college football playoff kind of game. The fact that you get the battle of the heavyweights in the SEC, the fact that you get Oregon and Penn State in the Big Ten title game, kind of like an institution in the Big Ten against the newcomers, against the hottest new girl at the party in Oregon. It's 5 great games, and I'm pumped for it. The stakes have never been higher in conference championship weekend, it feels like.
So, Caroline, we've been talking about the Ohio State-Michigan game for like the last week.
Oof.
And Bob and I feel really good, right? Bob and I feel really good about where the team is, right? Because you got to bury that thing, right? You got to turn the page, Bob Seger style. Give us the national landscape, the game, Ohio State, Michigan, thoughts on where they go from here and just of the game.
Yeah, I think that my first reaction after that game was, how do you let that happen? And I said this before the game, that Ryan Day and Ohio State have zero business, absolutely zero business losing this football game. You get Michigan at home. This is the worst Michigan team over the last 4 years. This is an Ohio State team that has NFL talent from the top to the bottom. This is a Michigan team that's played 4 different players at quarterback, that really has zero identity offensively. And I know that weird things happen in rivalry week and rivalry games, and it happens every single season. It happens every week this season in college football. But there was zero excuse for Ohio State to lose that football game. And I stand pat with that there was no excuse for Ohio State to lose that football game. And now that is kind of the brand on Ryan Day. Now that's kind of the red A that he's wearing is can win every other game, just can't beat Michigan, even when it's the worst Michigan team of the last 4 years. So look, it was a bad loss. Ohio State still has everything that they want to accomplish ahead of them. They're still going to be hosting a playoff game. They are still firmly and comfortably in the college football playoff. It's just hard, I would think, as an Ohio State fan, to not think about what could have been. What if we just beat Michigan and got back into the Big Ten title game? It's really hard to beat the same team twice. If Ohio State beats Oregon, they get a bye in the first round, and then that path to a national championship, which is obviously the expectation for Ohio State fans, feels so much more tangible. It's still ahead of them, but just the path is more difficult.
Yeah, it's still out there in the path, like you said, more difficult having to play the extra game. Did anything change with you perception-wise, Carolina, from watching that game? Obviously, it's a loss. Ohio State's offensive line did not play well against Michigan's front, and they're very good inside. But outside of of that, even including that, was there anything that you think you found out more negatively about this Ohio State team that would prohibit them from potentially getting on a run?
The offensive line obviously is banged up. You lose your center, you lose your left tackle. That showed against Michigan. I think the run game is going to be how Ohio State wins football games. The run game, I believe, is going to be what carries Ohio State to a national championship. And if you struggle to run the football, then your offensive identity looks much, much different at the worst possible time. I mean, the fact that you have Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson and you're only able to muster up 77 rushing yards, I think is a red flag to me. Albeit, Michigan has a solid defense, but you're going to be facing a whole lot of solid and even better defenses in the college football playoffs. So trying to figure out how you can, keep Will Howard upright, protect Will Howard, allow him to go through his progressions, and also create holes in the run game. Like that is absolutely paramount this week for Ohio State to figure that out on the offensive line. I think the other kind of jarring thing to me, or maybe thing that I question Ohio State a little bit, was late in that game. Obviously, the turnovers were an issue. Obviously, turnovers in the worst possible situations deep into Michigan territory don't help. But at the end of the game, when Michigan kicks the field goal, at that point, Ohio State already missed a field goal. That obviously feels incredibly consequential today. But at the end of that game, Michigan scores a field goal. What Ohio State has to do is just get into field goal territory just to tie that game up, just to at least take it to overtime or score and you end it. And in 4 downs, you're only able to get 1 yard. When the game is on the line, I don't want to say when your season is on the line, but that's not the case. But when a trip to the Big Ten title game is on the line and all you can do in 4 downs is come up with 1 yard. That's kind of situational football that a team like Ohio State needs to step up in the biggest moments, and they didn't. We've seen them step up in the biggest moments against good teams. We saw that against Penn State earlier this year. Even in a loss against Oregon, I thought Ohio State had a lot to show for it. But that was that final possession for Ohio State was a little bit concerning for me.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's where we talk about all the time, Carolina. You got to have self-introspection as a coach because these are 18 to 22-year-olds, right? They just go out there and do what they're coached to do.
And now like 23, 24, 25-year-olds.
Right?
Oh, I mean, everyone's in their 20s.
Yeah, everybody's in their 20s, but still, man, it goes back to coaching at this level is significantly different than the game of the NFL. And people got to know that. But also, now you have the NFL feelings coming into college football because you can still lose games and still win the deal, right? You can win the prize at the end. I want to ask you this. What happens if chaos ensues, right? Which you talked about. This year has been an anomaly, right? You have teams beating teams they shouldn't beat, right? You have the way it's set up right now, which I can't stand about conference champions with an automatic bye. It should just be the top 4 like basketball. But now what happens if Penn State wins? What happens if Georgia beats Texas, right? Like what happens if Clemson, oh my gosh, they beat SMU? Right. And there's all this stuff. And the CFP has been like, how do we just get Alabama with 3 losses into the mix in here? What's going to transpire in your mind?
I think if Penn State wins and or Georgia wins Big Ten and SEC championship games respectively, that's not the big chaos scenario to me, because I think either way, both teams in both of those conference championships are getting in. Texas is getting in. Georgia is getting in. Oregon's getting in. Penn State's getting in. So it's a matter of seeding, and it's a matter of who's hosting, and it's a matter of who's getting a first round bye, but it's not total and complete chaos. The real chaos scenario to me is the ACC championship game. If Clemson wins and SMU gets their second loss, does SMU get into the college football playoff? I don't know what the committee is going to say about that because the committee decides to change their mind every hour on the hour. If I was on the committee, though, I would say no go for SMU. That if you can't beat a Clemson team that otherwise would not have been in the playoff had they not won the ACC title game, and they wouldn't have even been in the ACC title game if Miami didn't choke against Syracuse. Well, if you can't beat that team and you can't beat BYU earlier in the season and you've had a rinky-dink schedule the rest of the way, then why should I reward you the opportunity to play for a national championship when you can't even beat the two of the best teams on your schedule? It's one thing to beat up on the rest of your schedule. It's one thing to have, I think they have the 75th ranked strength of schedule in all of college football, but I want to see you beat actual contenders. And SMU wouldn't have done that on their schedule. And I always get pushed back with well, Indiana played a really rinky-dink schedule. So why should SMU be punished by playing in the conference championship game? And I think that's totally fair. And I don't know how the committee is going to feel about quote unquote punishing a team for playing in their conference championship game. But I'll say the same thing. Well, Indiana doesn't get the opportunity to play for a first round bye. And SMU does get that. So yes, the conference championship games are kind of risk versus reward, but I think you have to reward teams that play a difficult schedule. I don't think that the committee wants to set a precedent of, well, if you just play a really easy out of conference schedule and you get, an easier draw throughout the season, that if you go 11-1, if you go undefeated, well, you're in the playoff, versus if you play really difficult out of conference games and you play a competitive schedule and you lose 3 games, well, even though you might be a better team, you're let on the outside looking in because you played a competitive schedule. I think that everybody wants to be rewarded for playing a difficult schedule. I think the College Football Playoff Committee wants better games in the regular season. So for me, if SMU loses, it's a no-go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting especially if that game is close. I think if you're Alabama, you want obviously an SMU win, or maybe a Clemson blowout would probably be the second best thing that you could have happen. The worst thing for you would be one of those tight, close losses, and then all of a sudden that those conversations begin to open up and people begin to question it. In the SEC, you've got Georgia, you've got Texas. It's kind of interesting here because everybody watched Georgia go into Austin and dismantle a Texas team that had been pretty good to that point. But this Georgia team, like offensively, they cannot run the ball. Carson Beck's gotten the turnovers cleaned up a little bit better, but defensively, they're not as dominant as they've been. This seems like the most mortal Georgia team that we've had, like in the entirety of the Kirby Smart era.
It 1000% is. No longer is there really a single team in the SEC that feels unbeatable. For so many years, it was Alabama, it was Georgia, it was these teams that nobody could seem to beat. Well, now even Texas also still looks pretty mortal. If you go back to that Texas and Georgia game, the reason why Georgia won that game was because Texas could not take care of the football, and Georgia got great field position. I think all but 2 scoring drives, they got the ball either in Texas territory or deep into Georgia territory. So I look at that, and I don't want to say that it's a fluke by any means, because it's absolutely not. But that was Texas's worst offensive line performance of the season. That was Georgia turning the ball over 3 times, or Carson Beck at least throwing 3 interceptions and still finding a way to win it, because Texas also did turn the ball over. It was sloppy performances from both teams. But I think both of these teams are different now than maybe what they were when they played then. I think that Texas's offensive line play has stepped up significantly. Georgia had the most elite defensive performance I've seen them play so far this season against Texas. And we know that Georgia's defense can play like that. We know the level of physicality that Georgia's defense can play. We saw it against Tennessee. We saw it against Texas. But they also just gave up 500 yards to Georgia Tech. So I always ask myself, what is this Georgia team? Is Carson Beck the guy that can throw for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns and 0 picks? Or is he the guy that throws 3 interceptions against Mississippi State? Is this Georgia defense one that can hold Texas, one of the most prolific offenses in college football? Or are they one that lets Haynes King run all over the place? Texas has just been the more consistent team all season long. Their defense has been so incredibly consistent. If Texas beats Georgia, it's because of the defense. It's because they're winning those battles at the lines of scrimmage, and it's because they're forcing turnovers. And really, if Texas wins a national championship, it's because of what they've done on the defensive side of the ball. Texas doesn't take care of the football very well, Quinn Ewers is interception prone. The running backs are fumble prone. We saw that against Texas A&M. The only way the Texas A&M got on the board was because of a Quinn Ewers pick six. But overall, I like Texas in this one.
All right, before we get you out of here, Caroline, Heisman Trophy coming up. That'll be now. Her voting is due Monday morning. I'm struggling on this. Trying to figure it out. I think a lot of people like Travis Hunter a lot. Obviously, Ashton Genty. You throw Dylan Gabriel in there, Cam Ward. I mean, does it seem like a foregone conclusion that it's Travis Hunter this year, or do you think there's room for someone else to make a move?
I don't think it's necessarily a foregone conclusion. That would be my pick for the Heisman, but there's still a big debate going on, rightfully so, about Travis Hunter versus Ashton Genty. And look, they're both carrying their teams. And obviously, Shedeur is a massive part of what Colorado, their success that they had this season. It's not just Travis Hunter and nobody else. But the reason why Boise State is in the position that they're in is because of Ashton Genty. The fact that he's putting up numbers that we have not seen in recent history for a running back. But also Travis Hunter is doing something completely unprecedented in college football. He's averaging 130 snaps a game. The fact that he's not only one of the best wide receivers in the country, but he's also a really solid defensive back that can play that position on Sundays. So I think that just what Travis Hunter is doing and the fact that it is so unprecedented, like that is what the Heisman Trophy is reserved for. A player that is doing something that is just unmatched across anywhere in college football. For Cam Ward, I think, frankly, as electric as he's been, as much as he's carried Miami, I think that the field would point more toward an Ashton Genty or a Travis Hunter. And my pick, frankly, my vote would go to Travis Hunter.
Well, I don't disagree with you. It's supposed to be for the most, quote, outstanding player in college football, and he definitely meets that definition. Does anyone else? Well, we'll find out here at the trophy ceremony in a couple of weeks. Caroline, thank you for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you. I'll enjoy the games this weekend.
Caroline Fenton here on SiriusXM does a great job over there. And while the College Football Playoff Selection Committee issued their rankings on Tuesday, they'll have one more rankings poll come out, then that will be the final one on Sunday. Probably, I think the show starts at noon. We'll probably know where everybody's at by 12:30, 12:40 on Sunday, and that'll be it. And there was a couple people, players, coaches, maybe not necessarily happy with it. We'll dive into that next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, two guys that weren't happy with the CFP rankings, and rightfully so. Like two guys we were talking about that were left out. We're going to start with one is a player and the quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. Now, he's probably going to get invited to New York City for the Heisman, and he'll be sitting there. And I don't think he ultimately wins it, but he'll get there. But Cam Ward, the quarterback of the Miami Hurricanes, came out blasting the College Football Playoff Committee. We can toss that up, Pat. And it's pretty interesting. This was courtesy of On3 Sports. He said, at the end of the day, them boys who in that committee, I really doubt they watched the tape or not. We're not playing better defenses, in my opinion, than the SEC. So everybody's got an opinion out there, Schlegs. They can talk about it. They can say whatever they want. But I would have to disagree with him on this. They've played some good teams, but at large, their schedule has not been very good. And the defenses and even the environments you play in, a lot of times it hasn't been full venues. There's not the difficulty of trying to go on silent counts and everything else. So it's a much different paradigm than I think he realizes that he's experienced.
Well, guys, let's just go through this doomajink with Miami, right? Like, let's just be real. You beat Florida handily first game out the year. Then you played Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, Va-Tech, California, Louisville. And again, remember, those games right there in the middle of that Va-Tech, California, Louisville, right, bucket of games, really, really close. Okay? Bumpy. Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, loss. Wake Forest, lost to Syracuse. Guys, I'm just telling you right now, and I understand and I appreciate it, but none of those teams have defenses that just like wow you, right? And the fact that some of those were super close. And again, I'm all about, like, this kind of goes back to FSU last year. Like, a win is a win, but you got 2 losses. And your 2 losses are to unranked teams in Georgia Tech and Syracuse, though I think really Georgia Tech is a really good football team. Look at what they did to Georgia in that. Honestly, you had opportunities of winning that football game, but it is not the same. And that's what we're seeing with the Big 12. It is just not the same. The consistency and the level of play top to bottom from the Big 10 and the SEC is not the same in the ACC and the Big 12, and that's why the committee is putting out these rankings the way they are.
All right, and then Lane Kiffin, head coach at Ole Miss, came out. We can toss that up there, Pat. Having some similar criticisms and critiques. You guys actually meet for days and come up with these rankings at College Football Playoff. Do you actually watch the quality of players, teams, and road environments? We played in one of yours this year, Z's sleeping emoji, or just try to make the ACC feel relevant. By the way, one of your teams paid us not to play again next year. Same 12 spot. You guys had Clemson ranked last week. How did it go against the SEC? Rewatch Georgia, Clemson closely if you want a reminder of the 2 conferences. # spot the ball anywhere. ACC football, remember, take a knee. And it's interesting he said all that because ultimately he didn't get in, but Alabama got in. As of now, I think SMU could still potentially bump them out with a close loss to Clemson, but he's right on some things, but also like watching Ole Miss, Bama, and South Carolina, like they all have some ugly losses too and some bad ones. So it's not like by looking at them, everything looks like it's all pretty and pink and everything's all pristine. They've got their warts as well, Schlegs.
Yeah, the hardest thing with that
is the waiting.
That's what
Tom Petty said.
I know, but like Alabama, right? Like your 2 big wins of the year are against South Carolina and Georgia. Georgia, good, playing the SEC championship game. South Carolina has 3 losses, right? Your losses of Alabama, right, are Vandy, Tennessee, and Oklahoma, 24-3, really recent. Like, that's a blowout on the road to OU, right? South Carolina, your losses are to LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama. They've now won 6 straight in a row. Like, those dudes are hot. But look at their win. They got Clemson. They beat Texas A&M. Like, Missouri. And that's kind of, what we're getting into? It's so hard with now the portal. And what is a team going to look like at the beginning of the year versus the perception of the brand? Because we're seeing that it does matter. Missouri was ranked. That ranking was coming off the Ohio State Cotton Bowl when we were terrible. Like, we looked awful in that game. They were top 10 at the beginning of the year. They were not a top 10 team at all. And that's that's the thing. Like, all those little, data points. Oh, well, they were ranked and we beat a ranked team. But like, what is the totality of what that team is at the end of the year and the quality of those wins week in and week out? That's why it's just so difficult to say who's going to be in. And we've done this to ourselves by saying we're going to have 12. Because guess what? They're going to be like, you know what? You need 16 now. That's what's going to happen. We're going to need 16, because we can't get to the 12 because we couldn't get to the 4. That's
all right. Let's keep on growing, Schlegs. You always say, rather be a grower than a shower, Schlegs. You've said it every time, and that's what the CFP is embracing. Urban made some news. Will he come back to coach Ohio State? Is he the savior, the prince that was promised that everybody seems to be clamoring for? I don't think so. And maybe we'll get his thoughts here coming up next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like. I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. Schlegs and Urban Meyer, people have talked about it. We've seen it in the chat. We've seen everybody preaching about it. We're going to do this quick because I've got about 3 or 4 more comments we want to get to. Urban Meyer's statement. It has come to my attention that there are reports speculating my return to the sidelines in Columbus. While I thoroughly enjoyed my 7 seasons as the head coach at The Ohio State University, I have no interest in coaching again. I will always be a Buckeye, and I have full confidence in Ryan Day, his staff, and every player that puts on scarlet and gray. Now, Jay Crawford was reporting this out of Cleveland. Jay's covered Ohio State back in the 90s when he was at WBNS. He was worked at ESPN. I know Jay. I consider him a friend. I think if he probably heard this from somewhere, I don't know how reliable that person is or how connected, but it probably connected enough for him to have some validity to it. I don't think that there was ever anything there, Schlegs. I don't think Urban wants to come back. We've talked about it. We've addressed it at length. Your thoughts on him having to address this at this point?
I think that probably Urban addressed it at this point to take like just the notion off the table for people that are clamoring for Ryan's job. That's why. Probably just came out. I trust Ryan Day. I trust his staff, and I trust all the players that put on the scarlet and gray, just like we do, right? He's a fan of the Buckeyes. Let's see how this plays out. That's what that statement is.
Yeah.
And no, he's not coming back to coach. He ain't coming back to coach. I'm just letting guys, listen, I worked for the man in Jacksonville, okay? All right. So he's not coming back to college football. It is a different game than when he left, right? It's just different with the portal and NIL and all this stuff. The worst thing about our deal, I want you to get to it, Bob, but the worst thing about our deal is that you have to do roster management twice a year. It is absolutely terrible. As much as we don't like the rankings and all this stuff in the CFP, the worst thing about college football right now is the portal twice a year. Once you sign up, you should be signed up. That's the deal. And it's not that way. And it's absolutely terrible.
Well, I don't mind people transferring in the portal. Like once, like you should get one transfer and like we don't need.
Oh, I'm talking about multi-year, Bob. I'm talking about, hey, I'm going to be here. NIL deal. I have a great spring. I'm out. Pay me more money. Boom. The whole thing about football is how do you manage a roster? And because of the way it's set up now, you can be developing guys and coaching the crap out of guys. Think about this. You took a little kid, right? Pee Wee, Pop Warner football, baseball, like travel baseball, and you're developing him. He's with you. And then all of a sudden he's like, man, I can now go to that elite team. I'm gone. No, man, you're with us. Right? What does that do to you? Like, it's terrible. That's what's terrible.
It is. It's rough. It's a little bumpy. But that's it for today's headlines. We got our tailgate talk coming up next, Schlegs. We got some frothy comments that I know you're going to want to dive on in there and just let the froth bathe all over your face. That's coming up next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Get the most out of work, life, and all your outdoor adventures with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. Real Truck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select Real Truck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
It's Tailgate Talk brought to you by our friends at Real Truck, where we answer your comments, your questions, try to connect with you. And it's Cyber Week. Now you got the weekend, folks. It's Friday from now through Sunday, December 7th. It is Cyber Week at Real Truck. They're offering savings up to 50% off select steps, running boards, trucks, bed covers, accessories. Now, like I said, through Sunday the 8th, visit realtruck.com/specials to learn more about the incredible gift-giving deals to bring your truck and your family and friends' truck, Jeep, Bronco, whatever it is, bring it to life. Don't forget the promo code Bobby to receive the free Real Truck hat. All you got to do at checkout is if you spend $100, throw Bobby in the promo code, bam, that Real Truck hat. Schlegs, which I don't think you ever came and got. Did you come and get it? You're muted again. Here's what
I did on purpose because I was just listening. I was listening to you, Bob. You're doing such a great job. No, I have not come and got it.
Yeah, it's still sitting on my porch. I have it for you. I said it out last night. She told me to come and get it. Poof, David Copperfield. It never disappeared. Visit realtruck.com/specials to make sure you save up to 50% off between now, Sunday, the 8th. And don't forget about the hat. Schlegs forgot about his. Okay, here we go. Some comments on the shows. Listen, you told me set it outside. I'll come get it. Those were your words.
I know.
Louder for the folks in the back.
I know. Bob, you're amazing. You're a good look. You're so much more good looking than I am.
No,
I get it.
I don't even need that. I just was leaving for my son.
You were right. You were right. You were right, Bob. You were right. Okay.
I know. I can't ever hear that enough. I never get it in my house. I can get respect anywhere else, Schlegs, except for my family and kids. So I appreciate your respect and reverence. I just, hey,
yes,
you know what, man? Trust is doing what you say you're going to do. You know, I'm trying to work on that. I'm good in some areas, not good in others. But I try to follow through at least for you on that. All right. So we got this comment coming from Michael Thompson, and we got some rebuttals. We get the chat gets spicy, Schlegs. I like this.
Yeah.
Gets going here. So I heard that Day allowed the players to air their grievances following the loss. But Day held his ground, and he and Chip developed a great game plan. And he doesn't find fault in using their strengths and prefers smashing it into the line. I don't have confidence in him from this point on. Now, Bo M rebutted quickly. At least he let them express what they saw. He listened, and that helps. Just knowing your coach and staff will listen to you. I'm going to give you some thoughts on that because that was in regard to this coaches, players, then maybe players only meeting where things got heated. People talking about people being restrained, which did not happen. I think there was some passion and emotion. People spoke honestly, which is good. And I don't think that Ryan Day vehemently dug a line in the sand either on his stuff because you heard him say some things that they needed to address some stuff with their game plan and what they tried and how they operated a little bit on Tuesday. So he had kind of walked back some of their decisions, which a coach can do if they think that they made mistakes. But go ahead. Your thoughts on that.
My thought is this. What I love about Ryan, regardless of everything that people say, Ryan went in and sat down and talked to Travian Henderson. It's hey, we got an opportunity to bring in Quinshon Judkins in. How do you feel about that? You guys got to remember, all these guys came back, take the NIL stuff and all that. They came back to play with each other and for an opportunity to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and win a national championship. That's why they're here. The national championship is still in front of them. Don't you think that they want to go do that? Awesome. I think it also bodes well the fact hey, I want to hear your thoughts. Throw it out on the table. Let's go. Because coaches need to be challenged too, whether it's coach on coach being challenged or player on coach being challenged. You see that all the time in the league. It is okay to ask why. And I think as a leader, you have to be able to answer the why, because when you answer the why, it validates, one, that you know what you're talking about, and two, that you've been able to communicate what you want to do effectively to your people. If they don't know the why or you don't know the why, then why in the hell is it in there? And this is a different generation, man. When we were growing up, it was when, what, and why. This is why, what, and when. So you have to communicate that. You need to embrace what they're saying. Self-introspect. Are we not doing this? Are we not doing this for our players? Because guess what? Players win games. It's about them, not the coaching staff. So own up, drop your sack and attack, and let's go. That's what that meeting was.
All right, here's another one. Great commentary on that Jack Sawyer pick. One of the most clutch plays I'd ever seen. Love that dude. If I were Ryan Day, I'd rip the Michigan countdown clock off the wall, give that crapbag team no more attention than they deserve. I love the rivalry, but right now that clock just doesn't count. It just counts down to sadness. I
like that, though. You know what, though? Hey, guess what? What was that guy's name?
That was Robert.
Hey, Robert, you know what? Good freaking idea. Sledgehammer that son of a bitch. right?
Yeah.
I don't care, whatever, because it doesn't matter right now. What matters right now is going beating Tennessee or whoever that first round is to go win a CFP. Like, that's the mindset. F those guys right now. It's about us. It's about the team. It's about the CFP. Let's go get it done.
Bump it.
I like that. Great idea, bro.
Yeah, bump it. Then right below it said, I'm not, this is by Brad Taylor, 1766. I'm not oblivious to Coach Day's win-loss stats. And those stats are very impressive, but they're always a bridesmaid, never a bridesmaid. Getting very old, being a Buckeye is a way of life. And only a born and raised Buckeye will ever understand that. If folks will be honest with themselves, they will fight harder for their own family ahead of all others. Admit it or not, that is the pure truth. However, converts are welcome to prove me wrong. Let's go. I will say this, Schlegs, like, I was not born in Ohio. I was not an Ohio State fan really growing up. I kind of became one a little bit more in high school and maybe like through middle school. But it wasn't something passionate. My mom went there. My dad went to Miami. But you learn about it. You become about it. I don't think you necessarily have to have grown up that. I think that helps. And being grown up in the presence of it, I think helps you understand it. But you're someone who isn't from here either. I mean, you were born in Iowa. You grew up in Texas. Like, everybody knows about it, but you don't really – no one – and Ryan has said this. You can't truly understand it until you experience it. And, like, there's no way to prepare for that.
Bob, here's the deal, man. I would say that I bleed scarlet and gray just as much as anybody else, and I care about the people in that program. And I'm also not a soft ass that's going to get this bitch and moan and ask for people's jobs, because none of those people have ever been in our profession, first and foremost. But I have no ties to the great state of Ohio outside the fact that I met you, AJ, Jim Tressel, Mark D'Antonio, and I was like, that's the most similar culture and brotherhood that I had to the United States Air Force Academy. And that's why I came here, because you played great defense and you had Big Deer and I had you guys. Like, that's it. Buckeyes. And then through it, it's like, I just give a shit so much about these dudes, right? Because they were us.
Yeah.
Right? Or we were in their shoes at some point, and I remember how that was. And I just respect everything that all of our former players and they do in our community. Great people. I choose to root for them. I choose to speak highly for them. I choose to look at the positive things because it's still out there for them. That's why I am the way that I am. I will only say things that I will say to somebody's face. I'm not soft like that just says shit on Twitter because, you are what you are. Right? And if everybody wants to challenge me, I'm gas station ready. I run the armory. We got turf. You got to sign a waiver, and we're go. But that's why I choose to do it this way. And then I'm also a big proponent of, then you get afterward, okay. You get it out, you lay it all on the table, and then you make a decision and see how you got to proceed forward. You don't do it in the middle of the season. I just like to be positive, man. On to the next. Let's go. Do changes have to be made? 100%. But it's go time.
So we got one more. Okay,
good. I'm sorry.
We're going to have one more because, you'll bloviate forever, Schlegs. And then we're going to get our Dude of the Weeks coming up after this. This one's from Braden. The home game is a lock. Really glad to get the seniors get another chance. Got to win this one now. And by the way, likely a night game. So we get the night game. Rebuttal to that. If it's a home game, if it's a home loss, they should go. Roris hops in there. They can be fired with cause to get out from underneath this contract for allowing Howard to return to the game. If he chokes another game away or he doesn't exceed expectations, then he should be fired. I will say this. I'm glad they're getting the home game. I'm glad for the seniors. It's going to be a night game, probably the best night game we've had in Ohio State this year by far. As far as the fire with cause, like, Ryan didn't let anybody back in the game. The trainer approves, like the training and medical staff approves and clears them.
Yeah.
So then they give them to you, and they're like, "Hey, you don't ask what's going on. You ask this. Hey, can you do? You good to go? Warm up. They're clear. You're cleared. Okay. Then you go back in the game. All right, Schlegs, you got a minute.
No, I don't even need a minute. That's just how it works. And to be honest, guys, like that's I just sit and wait. I let it play out. I want to see the attitude and intensity which the guys play. I want to see how they execute in that game. Do we see corrections? Right from the Michigan game to this game, guys, I'm with you, man. That Michigan game threw me off because of how we looked versus Indiana in a complete game in a top 5 matchup to that one. How do you fix that? How do you move forward? Do we have another slow game like we did versus Nebraska? But again, it's all about winning. It's not about necessarily how you do it, but I want to see a little bit of those corrections made that give you some juice going into the college football playoff, but it's all about winning. Then once it's all done, Then we come to our conclusions and we move forward into 2025. Side nugget, we also just had a great recruiting class, guys.
Yeah.
Like, boom, great job. Because why do people want to come here? Because of the coaching staff, because of the culture. Mark Fenton and the staff have done a great job. Okay, so all that is taken into consideration, people.
Absolutely. Got a ESPN top 100 tackle coming in, a lot of wideouts, some good, talented quarterback. St. Clair coming in from Bell Fountain. I mean, some really good linebackers. James Dunn,
yeah, man.
number one corner in the country. I mean, there's plenty to be excited about with this incoming class, and hopefully they'll stay locked in. And I don't think many guys are going to leave either that are unexpected departures that would be big-time contributors. All right, coming up next, we got another Buckeye in my dude of the week as we wrap up the Bobby Carpenter Show.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, Schlegs disappeared. My dude of the week, former Buckeye, and I guess was current head coach for Centerville. He was an alum of Centerville High School, came here, walked on, was a receiver at Ohio State. His dad coached at Centerville for a long time. Now the head coach at Springboro. Brent Ulrey took the Elks Schlegs to the state Final Four. He beat his dad in Springboro on the way there, who was the head coach there. Announced that he's going to step down, want to be a better father, husband, brother, son. And, he's not very old, Schlegs. He's about our age, at least mine. He's, maybe a year younger than me. But took the Centervilles to their first Final Four, I think, in a number of years, something his dad never did. To see him coach there. His dad coached AJ. Brent played with him there. You know what? He's probably got some younger kids. I bet he wants to spend some time with them, so I completely get it. But he's my dude of the week.
Elk Pride, man. Remember that Sonny Younger banquet? We should talk about that sometime. That was epic down there. All right, mine is Zach Weber, running back, Bishop Watterson. Watterson's going back. They play Toledo Central Catholic. I've had the privilege of watching this young man just kind of transform his body, have a great season last week versus London. He had like 190-something yards rushing and 3 touchdowns, caused fumble recovery. That's my dude of the week. Really proud of that young man, and looking forward to his career moving forward.
All right. Well, that's it for today's show. We'll be back 12:30 live on Monday. Let you know where the Buckeyes will be playing, who that matchup will be. We'll break it all down here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.